we can already assume that vibe coders can't write code.
Can we talk about what the software engineering job actually is now? Because I need to know if this is only me.
Some people are using AI to write LinkedIn posts about authenticity. Take your time.
Today, let's talk about AI and how it's changing software engineering. Now, full disclosure, I'm a front-end developer. I mostly do web development. I am also a software engineer. I think AI is amazing. 2 years ago, it was fun. It was copy and paste in ChatGPT, but now I have fantastic results. I still do a lot of hand coding for my personal projects and on the channel, but in my professional life, it has become so invaluable. I love it. I am here for it. Not everybody feels the same.
Vibe coders are engineers after 1 year. This is an incendiary statement, and there's a reason it is an incendiary statement, and that is that I am starting to suspect that the people who are vibe coding for a significant amount of time begin to actually pick up software engineering fundamentals. What does that mean? Well, they can't write code, okay? We can already assume that vibe coders can't write code. By the way, if you've been a software engineer and you're utilizing AI, you're not a vibe coder, you're doing agentic engineering. But I am seeing conversations with vibe coders who are talking like engineers. And when I really start pushing, what I hear is, oh, well, I've been doing this 7 months. I've been doing this 10 months. I've been doing this for a long enough time that a lot of these concepts begin to just become second nature. That person is learning engineering fundamentals. Like, there's no way around it. And so I can actually see a path from vibe coder to software engineer. Because at the end of the day, software engineering is not about writing code. Software engineering is about standing up systems that will withstand the amount of demand that they may need at any one given time. And that is a different skill set than having something like the ability to write the tightest, most performant for loop you've ever seen. So it is very likely that we're going to have the next generation of software engineers come out of vibe coders. I've already said this. And I think that the longer you vibe code, the more that you start to think like a software engineer, and therefore the more you're learning software engineering. Anyways, debate in the comments. Tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I think he is mostly right here. Software engineers do also need to be good coders. You can't exclusively be a software engineer and not write code. Part of being an engineer is actually understanding and testing the code. So I get that engineering is about so much about the systems, the requirements, understanding your organization, understanding the needs of the project, understanding the needs of users, understanding personas. I mean, I come from a very web development centric point of view on this because that's what I do. But engineering, we can all say with absolute certainty that it is more than coding, but it is not. It still does include coding. And in order to be an engineer who understands what they're pushing, you have to also understand the code. Now, I use a lot of agentic AI in my professional work, my freelancing and my consulting. I don't always understand every single line of code, but I do recognize when functionality is wrong. I know my leadership teams really, really well. I know that something may be technically correct, but that a director or somebody in a leadership position is going to question the functionality. And I know that because I am a good engineer and I know how to work with teams and I know how to understand requirements. So from that perspective, I absolutely think that you can be a good engineer who isn't necessarily a good coder. But in order to do the real problem solving of software engineering, you do also have to understand the code. So I see both sides of this. I mostly agree, but I a little bit disagree. So, all right, let's see what the comments say. I have been using version 0 before Claude Code for the last year. I'm now using Claude Code and I am improving. I can see it. I can solve problems without getting irritated. But my question is, why are software engineers getting irritated with vibe coders? I think you can solve complex problems. I think if you can solve complex problems, you won't lose your job. But if you just write code, you will lose your job. See, I feel like this person, because they're not a coder, they're a vibe coder, they're kind of missing the point. you have to know how to do both. My argument against this is vibe coded code from those without technical backgrounds is entirely spaghetti code, but tenured engineers have a better eye for maintainability, object-oriented programming, and testing practices. Code quality is usually abhorrent, but here's the thing. Does code quality even matter if the world doesn't even care? That's a good point. We've already let go of good engineering standards. All that stands in the way for good product is optimization and refactors, which given to a good engineer, they can do easily. In 1 year, engineering has flipped on its head. Yeah, in a year, engineering has flipped on its head. It's honestly shocking to see what's happened to engineering, but also I feel like when you could do a 6-week React bootcamp and come out with a 6-figure income, that was when engineering started flipping. It wasn't when AI came on the scene. It was already happening with bootcamps, in my humble opinion.
Super weird time to be in tech right now, because if you can vibe code a prototype in 30 minutes, why does V1 still take 3 months? I'm sure there are so many teams right now who have a PM who vibe codes the entire V1 in a single afternoon, brings it to the dev team and is like, guys, it's finished. What do you mean it's gonna take 4 more weeks? And I mean, to be honest, they're not wrong. Like, it looks pretty good, it works. It could actually even be connected to the database. And this is why you also have the kid that doesn't know how to code that launches a new app to the App Store in like a week. Of course, the non-technical person is cutting corners and probably has security issues they don't realize. But at the same time, I can't help but feel like there has to be some unnecessary bloat in a lot of dev processes still.
I don't know. I've been experiencing this for years. I've worked with project managers, leadership people who thought they knew how to do the job and they just didn't know how. So this was happening to me in my career way before AI came on the scene. Now AI is here and it's even worse. I don't like this. I mean, I want people to learn how to code. I've always wanted people to learn how to code, especially if they have a genuine interest in knowing how to do it. But I really don't like it when project managers or other members of the team go off and code something and then come back and hand it to me like it's something I should actually use. It really does ruffle my feathers when that happens to me, but it has been happening since the very beginning of my career, and I started in 2014. So AI didn't have to happen in order for me to experience this, but it is annoying, isn't it? Let's see what the comments on this one says. This is a good one. Developing a prototype was never the hard part. That's why it's a prototype. Version 1 needs to be free of bugs, of vulnerabilities, because it's customer facing. Yeah, I've seen it, and about 2% of their code ended up in production, had to rewrite the whole thing. So I had somebody on a team that I worked very closely with who was constantly writing CSS for me and would go to our leader if I didn't include their CSS in production. It was infuriating. So like I said, this has been happening to me since well before AI came on the scene. So this is a good one. I am appalled by how many people are working with non-tech PMs. Any PM who has been a coder before should already be doing manual QA, writing tests, and addressing safety from day one. One difference I've seen is that engineers tend to ensure the extensibility of the code and the right architecture to build it, while PM building the app focus on the outcome, test, safety, rollout. None are wrong. It's a matter of size and company, phase of the product, and overall goal. I mean, I actually think this is a really good comment, and I think this person has been working with PMs who are probably previously tech people. I've never had a leader, a director, a PM who was actually a developer. Never in my career. I've had some who thought they were, but they really, really weren't. So my experience with non-developer PMs or any kind of leadership teams who are trying to write code have been very bad experiences for me personally. I will admit part of it has to do with the fact that I just want people to leave me alone and let me do my job. But also it's the insistence that I use code that I know is not correct and that I know should not go to production. It just drives me crazy.
Can we talk about what the software engineering job actually is now? Because I need to know if this is only me. The best way that I can describe it is with a story from when I first started as a software engineer at AWS, before AI was a thing. I remember getting assigned a sprint where my entire job was testing my coworker Joe's feature. I'd read his design document, figured out what the feature was supposed to do. I asked Joe what buttons I needed to click in the glue job, what inputs I needed to use, and then I would inevitably hit a runtime error and spend hours digging through the logs trying to figure out what went wrong. And truth be told, I hated those sprints because I was testing someone else's code, and Joe understood that feature way better than I did. He knew what he had already tested and what he was sure was working before he handed it over to me. He knew all the little implementation details that weren't obvious to anyone else because he wrote the code line by line. And those were the sprints where I'd think, I can't wait until next sprint when I actually get to build something myself. And unfortunately, that story feels way too similar to what I do right now with AI. Claude is my coworker Joe. AI writes the code, I read it, I review it, I run it, except Claude hasn't run the code before he hands it off to me. I have to do all of the testing implementation part of it that usually your coworker would have done before giving it off. And I feel like that's the piece that makes this a little bit more frustrating. I spend less time typing and a lot more time reviewing, a lot more time testing, being a product manager, being a quality assurance personnel. Those are aspects of my job that I usually did for very little of the sprint, and now I'm doing for a majority of the sprint. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I just think it's important to talk about what this job is changing and what AI is doing to an entire group of people who had a career path, and it's changing. Now I just have to learn how to be good at that part of my job instead.
I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and say it that I am happy that this job is changing like this. Now, I've made videos in the past about still wanting to write my own code, and that's true because I have a YouTube channel where I do front-end development. So I spend a lot of time outside of my professional life writing my own code. Now, if you have a full-time 9 to 5, and let's face it, a lot of these big tech career jobs, you are working outside of your 9 to 5. You're working a lot more than just those 40 hours a week. I totally get it. You don't have the emotional energy or the desire to write your own code, work on personal projects outside of work, because I've been there too. However, the job is changing, and I personally am ready for this. I don't want to spend days and days or weeks writing really complex things. I still enjoy doing the things that I'm really, really good at and that I can practically do in my sleep. But for the really, really complex stuff, I'm happy to turn these things over to Codex. My experience has also been for code that I don't understand, I can ask Codex, hey, what's happening from this line to this line? Explain how this is functioning right now, or why you wrote it this way, or why this is happening. So maybe that's not feasible for the back-end heavy engineering roles where you're writing many, many more lines of code. But in front-end, in JavaScript, in framework land, I'm having amazing success with Codex. So the job is changing, though. There is no question that the job is changing. And yeah, this is it's like the next industrial revolution, right? Again, 150 years ago, the way we make things, the way we build things, the way factories were run, that all changed because the tools changed. But it didn't eliminate the need for humans. It just changed how the work gets done. I was just talking to a coworker about this. We took the worst part of the job and made it the entire job. I disagree. That has just not been my experience. To me, the best part of the job, I mean, I love the coding part. I really, really do love the coding part, but I am not lamenting the fact that I don't have to spend days or weeks doing the coding, because I also get to do the parts of the job that I enjoy. The requirements gathering. I do like the testing. I like the function, making sure that it's functionally working the way it's supposed to. I get so much joy and satisfaction out of handing something off to a leadership team because it's working the way I know they wanted it to work. I love it. Unfortunately, I am seeing this way too often. People ask vanilla Claude code, write XYZ, and then spend hours fixing it. And to be honest, that's the wrong way to code with AI. I also agree with this statement. It goes back to the requirements gathering. Do you understand what you were supposed to build in the first place? I think this has to do with the requirements gathering and what it is that you're even asking for. That's what that sounds like to me. They've taken the joy away. We have to live with it and code more personal stuff. I mean, that's not wrong either. Like I said, I do a ton of personal coding. I would never want to live in a world where I didn't write some code, but I also understand that with a full-time 40-hour-a-week job, a lot of people have families and obligations and they don't want to write code 24/7. You, my friend, need to flip the script. I used to be an RN, a registered nurse, with all of the automated control measures brought in that replaced my skills. There is a machine that tests everything. I looked at these things at removing my job, what I was hired to do, but I was wrong. Those tools made me available to do what I loved about my nursing career. I had more time to use my assessment skills, apply my knowledge, give bedside care. I worked with the tools. The tools did not have my observation skills. They could not tap into my experience, but now I had more time to utilize what I loved about nursing. I moved on and into project management. I view AI the same as those tools. This is such a good comment. You learn how they work and use them to your advantage. You have a career path that's changing, growing into something that hasn't been realized yet. Flip the script. Find the lining. I understand your discontent. I get it. Your niche is there. Your coding ability is an art. AI can write the stories, not as good as people. AI can make music, not as good as musicians. You are an artist. AI is not as good as your imagination. AI can't dream your dreams. AI is the tool. Okay, it got a little flowery there towards the end, but I've been saying this for the last 2 years. AI doesn't understand your organization, your users, your organization's mission, what the tools are really supposed to be doing. All of that has to do with really understanding who you're building for and why you're building it. And part of that is part of the joy. It's not just all about writing the code. You are writing the code to serve those people, to do the thing that the code is supposed to be doing. So that needs to be part of it. I get an enormous amount of satisfaction out of really understanding the requirements, understanding who I'm working for, successfully getting Codex to write my code, explain it to me if I need it, explain to me, and then handing it off quickly and efficiently to the people who hired me to write it, and knowing that it's going into production built really, really well.
Lately, I've been exploring the world of vibe coding and AI generated websites, and I've come across a couple of things that are like the M dashes in an AI generated caption. They're really dead giveaways that AI has been used to build your website. AI loves itty bitty little pieces of text. It loves a subheading that doesn't really give much additional detail to the website. As I've been practicing with vibe coding, I have had to tell Claude, remove this. I don't want this piece of text. It doesn't add anything to the website. It doesn't help. Next is these double scrolling bars. So this website's actually, like you can see, I'm like actively scrolling, and it's hard for me to scroll down the website because the HTML widget container has one scroll and then the actual site has another scroll. This is a different website, but these borders are also, AI loves a border. It loves a little emoji. I don't know, I'm not a web developer, so these like container.
Okay, I have to stop. Subheadings, I swear I'm not picking on this creator at all. Subheadings have been around for years. I mean, I started seeing subheadings back in 2017, 2018. I don't know about the borders. I feel like I've seen borders for a long time too. I do front end. I'm a web developer. I've done front end my entire career. Emojis, yes, AI loves emojis. What I think is interesting is this creator calling out the M dashes, because I think we all noticed M dashes about a year ago, right? I mean, we didn't notice 2 years ago because we were so impressed that AI could write anything for us that was even halfway coherent. But about a year ago, we were all like, oh, what's with all these M dashes? I do think the scrolling HTML widget is very interesting. I definitely think that, I mean, we could do a whole video just on scrolling animations on landing pages, which are wild to me. I think that, and she doesn't say if she vibe coded this particular site.
Or shapes, I guess. I see a lot of these on AI generated websites, and that's a dead giveaway. And then finally, dead space at the bottom of the website. This website has so much negative space at the end. I'm assuming because they haven't sized the HTML widget correctly for the page. So they've left all this negative space at the end.
Okay, so it sounds like she is critiquing a site that she feels like was vibe coded. It probably was. It's got to be old. In fact, let's go to the comments because a couple of the comments call this out. So this comment says either the model that you're using is old, not that smart, or you're just not using it right because that's the most generic low effort site. If you actually give it proper instructions, it'll actually make something worth looking at. I don't think she built that site. I think that my impression from this video is that she was critiquing a site that she found online. I'm just going to go ahead and say that whoever built the site probably built it a long time ago and they didn't do a good job, because AI right now is making beautiful landing pages. I think they're over the top and unnecessary. I don't know why we need all these scrolling animations on landing pages. Landing pages have one job. They're there to communicate an idea, convert leads. That's what they do. I don't know why we need all the scrolling animations. That's just my opinion. I think she just ran into something either that's old, and if she did build it, this is a good example of why vibe coders are not going to be taking over anytime soon, because an engineer, a web developer, a front-end developer who understands what to ask for isn't going to run into what she ran into, right? I can tell within 0.3 seconds of landing on someone's website if it's AI. It's so obvious. Sometimes it depends on who it is, right? Because if you have a really experienced software engineer vibe coding a landing page, I'm here to tell you, you're not going to know. I mean, maybe you will. There could be some cliche animations in there, but an engineer who understands how to write that prompt, you're not always going to know. So this is good. Claude/lovable also love unreadable light gray. So what this comment is really saying is that there are accessibility concerns. We have color contrast that isn't working or isn't meeting accessibility standards. Yeah, prompt build a website, then this is what's going to happen. Lol. So no structure, no SEO in dashes. You can say sites are generated by SEI or by AI. Yeah, exactly.
AI is going to leave you behind. You think you're behind? Good. Some people are using AI to write LinkedIn posts about authenticity. Take your time. You think you're behind? Good. The future currently involves proving that you're not a robot before talking to one. Take your time. You think you're behind? Good. Half of the internet is now people using AI to create content for people using AI to summarize the content. Take your time. You think you're behind? Good. The people ahead of you keep insisting that they're saving time. Nobody seems any less busy. You think you're behind? Good. Somewhere an AI-generated influencer is selling products to people who don't even exist. And somehow that's a business model. You think you're behind? Good. For most of human history, if you heard somebody's voice, you knew that it was them. Now apparently that's optional. We literally live in hell. You think you're behind? Good. We're so worried about artificial intelligence that we forgot, to check on natural intelligence, human intelligence, emotional intelligence. You think you're behind? Good. We're apparently automating creativity before we've automated billionaires. Interesting priorities. You think you're behind? Good. The people that are sprinting towards the future keep describing a world with less art, less connection, less privacy, less trust, and less humanity. I'm not convinced that they're winning. Leave me behind. Oh no! I've been left behind years ago. I don't give a shit about your empty threats.
This is not a software engineering or technology video, but I think that this is a good glimpse into how the non-software engineers, the non-tech people, the non-devs are thinking about AI, and they're not wrong. I see outside of technology, outside of development and software engineering, the number one use is songwriting and song creation, or the weird YouTube thumbnails that are obviously AI generated. Okay, so tempted to post this on LinkedIn to keep making sure I'm unemployed forever. LinkedIn, I heard it referred to as the ghetto of virtue signaling, and I totally agree. I miss the times when AI meant only Adobe Illustrator. The people telling us we're going to be left behind are developing cognitive dependencies on their devices. We are not far at all from people becoming completely thoughtless and helpless when their effing phones die. This person is not wrong. Those who are left behind by AI are well positioned to kick the butt of those who went forward to bow to it. I don't think it's okay. Now, again, in the context of people who are not working in technology or who are not software engineers, I personally believe that we are going to find balance. I don't know how long it's going to take. I don't know what the balance is going to be. I do think we're going to find some balance. It's a tool. I've said it from the beginning. I will continue to say it. It's a tool. I don't think being an early adopter or somebody who uses the tool means that we are bowing to it, because I have enough experience to go back to coding by hand if I have to.
Why not use Claude Code for modding? So yeah, listen, there's a lot of new people in here, obviously. Maybe you need a refresher on when to use AI and when not to use AI. 50% of you are going to be furious at me, and the other 50% of you are going to be even more furious at me. Because that's what it is. Some of you are going to be like, that's fence-sitting position. It's okay, it's fine. So AI or coding, it's actually okay. Whoa. The first 50% are like, hey, hold. The other 50% are like, that's not what you should say. I'm going to tell you, if you are an advanced coder, boom. Anything below that, absolute beginner, forget about it. Intermediate, forget about it. Has never written code before, forget about it. The only thing that you might be able to use AI for there is to learn it. So go to like ChatGPT or your AI of choice and tell it, I am a beginner in Java. Give me 10 topics that I need to learn, and then learn those topics. And then ask the AI, now make me a questionnaire of like 10 questions. Boom. That's a way to learn with it. But just being like, just vibe coding it? No, that's not a good idea. And it doesn't mean that there's no place in this at all, right? I'm a tech person. Coders and programmers, we're like okay with using it and testing it out. But it's a tool, and relying on it fully, you're gonna get crushed. Not being able to use it at all, you're probably also gonna get crushed. But always be aware that it's a tool. And when you have a tool, you know, what is it? Like if you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Be very careful with that. Be very careful with that.
Do you agree or disagree? Leave a comment down below.
I 100% agree with that. In fact, this video on Instagram Reels is one of the reasons I even decided I was going to start doing reaction videos, because I just thought he said it so beautifully. I do think that if you're a brand new developer, you probably shouldn't be vibe coding. Now, if you're interested in technology and you just want to try vibe coding, go ahead, try it, have fun, knock yourself out. But if you're in any kind of a position where your code is going to get pushed to production and you're vibe coding and you don't really understand what's going on in that code, I do think that that's a problem. I think that ChatGPT or Claude Code or what have you, it is so much more useful for teaching. This is how I practice JavaScript, but I go to ChatGPT and I say, give me data, give me requirements, and I go work on it, and then I come back and I use it as a code review, and I look and it explains ways that I could do it better or more efficiently. It is an awesome teacher. It is better at teaching me code than any person I've ever known. It is so good for that. And I do agree that if you're new at development and this is an actual profession for you, I don't really think you should be using it, but obviously you need to know how to use it or you're not employable. I don't know what the answer is. These are just my observations. Let's go to the comments. So right at the top, disagree, world has moved on. Oh, I mean, okay. We are teaching so many people at work how to use AI for basic needs, using Claude to build basic GUI wrappers for Excel spreadsheets and so much more. People can learn and use this without coding experience, but they need the platform and understanding of how to structure prompts and describe what they want done, which AI can also help with. Yeah, I mean, part of knowing how to use the tool is even understanding what it is that you need in the first place. And that's why experienced developers are so good at using these tools, because they're good. They already know how to sit down with their leadership teams, their PMs, and actually figure out what the requirements are, right? Absolutely, it is a productivity plus as an advanced coder. AI hate is mostly cultural BS. I mean, yeah, I kind of agree with that. I have days where I'm like, wow, it's like I have a team of junior devs, but really, I just have a senior dev who I tell what to do. And because I understand the requirements to begin with, I'm good at prompting and I get what I need, usually right out of the gate. So this is interesting. A few days ago, I had an interview for the role of principal mobile engineer for a startup. They asked me to add a new feature in an existing code base using AI. They wanted to test my code prompting, validation of the generated code, and planning towards vibe coding the feature. It's the first time that this happened to me. I mean, that's the future. That's the new tech interview right there. They're going to check to see how well you can prompt and then test once you get the result. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with me today. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Angela. I'm a software engineer and front-end developer in St. Paul, Minnesota, and I will see you in my next one.